Welcome to my channel. Sit back and listen to the best true crime stories. Let's go.
"18-year-old Zeb Quinn was a cheerful and kind young man. He had no enemies, and everyone who knew him called him a great guy. He lived with his mother in the small town of Asheville, North Carolina. He worked at his favorite job in the electronics department of the local Walmart on Hendersonville Road for over 2 years. He was in his second semester of technical college, Asheville Buncombe Technical College. There was also a girlfriend he was trying to court. Life seemed fine and there was no cause for concern. Until everything tragically changed on January 2, 2000. It was on this day that Zeb mysteriously disappeared, and to date this disappearance has not been solved. So, the evening of January 2nd. Quinn, as usual, finished his shift at the store and headed out to the parking lot. There, at 21-02, Zeb met up with his friend, 21-year-old Robert Jason Owens, in the parking lot. The friends found a car for sale that Zeb had wanted to buy for a long time and decided to go to look at it. Only it was on the other side of town. After a brief conversation, they head to the Eblin Citgo gas station, where another surveillance camera caught them at 21-14. There they buy a few bottles of soda and leave the gas station a couple minutes later. They get into different cars and drive out toward Long Shoals Road. Owen drives a Ford pickup truck, Zeb drives his light blue Mazda Protege, license plate number KXK 5057. According to eyewitness recollections, they stopped on Long Shoals Road. Several people passing by were under the impression that it was a minor traffic accident. Whatever the reason for the stop, it was the last time Zeb Quinn was seen. What exactly happened on the night of January 2nd is still a matter of dispute. And subsequent events have done nothing to solve the mystery but confuse it. That same night, Zeb's mother Denise Vlahakis had dinner with her fiancé and wanted to invite her son to dinner. She sent him a proposal by pager, but no response. Half an hour later, another unsuccessful attempt, after which they went to dinner alone. When Denise returned a few hours later, she was surprised to find that her son was still gone. He had never once given cause for alarm, nor had he lingered unannounced. Therefore, today's absence seemed strange. For the next 12 hours she tried to contact her son. At 3 p.m. on January 3rd, the worried mother filed a missing persons report. The police took the report and began search efforts immediately. And of course, the first thing they did was to find Robert Owens, who was the last person to see Zeb. To their surprise, he was in the hospital with broken ribs and a concussion, where he was admitted at 9:40 a.m., January 3rd. In his words, the events of January 2nd unfolded as follows. After leaving a gas station around 9:30 p.m., Quinn pulled over to the side of the road and blinked his headlights, asking Robert to stop. Zeb looked agitated and said of the pager message asking him to call back. Owens offered to drive to the next gas station with a pay phone, but the man wasn't satisfied with that offer. Quinn hopped into the vehicle and drove off somewhere, asking him to wait. When he returned 15 minutes later, he was so excited that he crashed into Owens' pickup truck. Informed that he had to change plans immediately, he sped off into the darkness and they never met again. Owens attributed his injuries to being involved in another car accident that same evening. According to him, it happened near the Waffle House restaurant on the same Long Shoals Road. Such a coincidence, and on the night of the disappearance, seemed strange to the police. In addition, the traffic police had no record of any accidents that evening, and Owens' truck appeared to be undamaged. Finding the men who wanted to sell the car to his friends was also impossible. The next day also provided food for thought. On January 4th, Patty King, the manager of the missing Zeb at Walmart, received a strange phone call. The caller identified himself as Quinn and said he was sick and would not be coming into work. Patty, who had known the missing man for 2 years and did not recognize his voice, suspected something wrong. After talking to the caller, she traced his call using last call return, a service in some countries that allows you to call back the last number you called. The call came from a nearby Volvo construction equipment plant. King called Zeb's mother, who in turn called the police. They found out that it was the plant where Owens worked. After a brief conversation, he admitted that he wanted to help his friend. Allegedly, Quinn had called him and asked him to tell the workplace about his illness. Why Zeb could not do it himself, where he is now, these questions Robert could not answer. Continuing the investigation, the police also learn about a woman, Misty Taylor, to whom the missing men had romantic feelings. They met recently, at a Christmas party at his mother's fiancé's restaurant. And although Zeb was very attracted to the young girl, she claimed that they were just acquaintances. Misty repeatedly told the suitor about her baby and relationship with another guy, but Quinn continued to woo her. Zeb did not hide his feelings and often consulted with his older colleague, Patty. He told her about both Misty and her boyfriend, Wesley Smith. According to Zeb, Wesley was very jealous. After finding out about their communication, he beat up the girl and threatened Quinn. Despite everything, Zeb continued to call the girl, and the last time he called her was on the day of his disappearance, January 2nd. His grandmother claims he hung up the phone and said, "I think I'm in trouble." Despite these claims, both Misty and Wesley have denied any involvement in the disappearance, and even managed to give the police an alibi, which turned out to be directly related to the pager message that had caused Zeb to change his plans. After checking it out, the police found out that there was indeed a message, and it was sent from the home phone of his paternal aunt Ina Ustic. Until that day, their communication had been rather superficial and rare. Ustic herself stated that she did not send the message and also provided an alibi. It turns out that evening she had dinner at her friend Tamra Taylor's house. As the attentive reader will notice, the character with this surname has already met in our story. By coincidence, Tamra Taylor was the mother of Misty, the girl Zeb was in love with. And that night they all spent together, Misty, her boyfriend, her mother Tamra, and the missing man's aunt Ina. A week after the interrogation, Ustic filed a report that her house had been burglarized that evening. The perpetrators did not steal anything but moved some pictures in the house for some reason. She specified that the house was broken into between 21 and 21 to 30. That's when Zeb was last seen disappearing. Later, she began to deny everything she said, packed up her belongings and moved to Tennessee for work. She was never again named in the disappearance case. The investigation went on as usual, and just 2 weeks after the disappearance, investigators received another mystery. On January 16th, Zeb's mother was at her workplace, Mission St. Joseph's Hospital. Suddenly, she received a call from a former classmate of Quinn's who had spotted his car in a nearby parking lot. The car was found in a parking lot near the Little Pig's barbecue restaurant. Police officers arriving on the scene recorded some very bizarre evidence. Someone had drawn lips and an exclamation point on the rear windshield of the car with lipstick. The driver's seat of the car was pushed up against the steering wheel, as it was for a person of short stature. The headlights were on and the windows were cracked. Police assumed this was done to attract attention. The car was clearly not placed in this spot by accident. Whoever did it knew for sure that Zeb's family worked nearby. In addition, items were found that never belonged to the missing Quinn, a live black Labrador puppy inside the car, which was later taken by an investigator, a hotel keycard, which didn't have any logos on it. And despite checking all the hotels and motels in the area, it remains a mystery where it came from. Several bottles of drinking water and alcohol, a man's jacket, however, all of this evidence gave the police no leads. Another week later, on January 24th, police located 2 witnesses. They reported that they had indeed seen Zeb's car downtown before it was discovered. Since they were aware of the missing man and had heard the radio alert, they noticed a similar vehicle. The witnesses didn't remember the license plate number, but they were able to describe the driver. The sketch drawn up by the artist was strikingly similar to Misty Taylor. The latter, however, denied everything and claimed she had never been in Zeb's car. As time went on, the investigation began to bog down. Investigators believed more than one person was involved in the disappearance, but made no arrests. No connection between Owens, Misty, and Wesley was found. For the police, Owens became the prime suspect, but the search warrant issued by the Chief Justice yielded no additional evidence. Thus, there was no evidence to charge Owens. Zeb's family was in agreement with the police officers and believed he had been murdered that same night. They put out a $15,000 reward for any information about the missing men. For years, several versions of what exactly happened on the night of January 2nd became mainstream. Version 1. Owens killed Zeb. Owens was the only one with knowledge of the events of that night, and his answers to questions are ambiguous. He provided no explanation for his injuries, and there are no traffic accident reports from that period. It's quite possible he received them from a defensive Zeb. Since the missing man was on his way to inspect a car, he could have been carrying a large sum of money with him for the purchase. Which could be the motive for the murder. Zeb's car may not have been abandoned, but Owens drove it to the restaurant, where he fled after the police arrived. The lips could have been painted as a distraction, and the pager message could have been an accident or mistake. An important argument for this version is Owens' call to Walmart after Zeb's disappearance. Version 2. Misty and Owens killed Zeb. Based on the fact that Zeb's feelings for Misty were unrequited and disgusted her, she may have wanted to get rid of the annoying beau and assigned the murder to Owens. That could explain the pager message to Zeb that Misty sent to Zeb as a distraction. After the murder, Misty started using his car. Which would explain the painted-on lips and the bolstered car seat. Version 3. Wesley killed Quinn. If Zeb's grandmother's report is to be believed, the last phone call could have been from Wesley. He found out about Zeb and Misty's relationship and decided to kill him. Alternatively, he could have beaten Owens as well, to intimidate him into keeping quiet. That would explain the latter's injuries. The abandoned car could also be a means of intimidation. Version 4. Zeb and Misty escaped. It is quite possible that Zeb and Misty decided to run away together and wait out some time in a hotel. That's where the hotel key card in the car came from. The dog was purchased for Misty. However, for some reason, the fugitives decided to leave the car behind and drove off in a different way. These were the main versions that were equally likely to happen. However, there have been several events in recent years that have made one of the versions much more likely. The events of 2009. In October 2009, saliva, hair and fingerprint samples were taken from Misty Taylor. After the tests, police emphasized that Misty was never a suspect or involved in the disappearance of Zeb Quinn. At the time, she was still living in the same neighborhood and married to Wesley, despite their previous disagreements. Events of 2015. 15 years after the disappearance, an event occurred that was not directly related to the case, but gave the investigation unexpected leads. The Codd family was a fairly well-to-do family. The head of the family, Joseph Codd, was involved in the creation of the movie. His wife, Christy Codd, a famous chef and finalist of the television competition Food Network Star. She was 5 months pregnant. A few years ago, they fulfilled their dream and bought a small and simple house in a rural area, Lester, North Carolina. The house really was beautiful. A fresh water source nearby, beautiful orchards with apple and pear trees, blueberry bushes, and fresh grapes. Lovely neighbors, always willing to help. What more could one dream of? Saturday, March 14th, was to be an ordinary evening of socializing for the Codd family. Christy's family was expecting the couple, but they never arrived. Afterward, her father asked a family friend to go to their house and find out why they didn't show up. The friend turned out to be Cecilia Owens, aunt of the already known to us Robert Owens. Cecilia had the keys to the house, and on Sunday she went to check on the Codds and find out the reason for their absence from the family party. As she approached the house she spotted cars, and upon entering the house she immediately realized that something had happened there. No, there were no bloodstains or dead bodies. There were only abandoned dogs and the persistent odor of dog feces. As a friend of Christie's, Cecilia knew that she would never abandon her dogs, who were like children to her. Alarmed by this fact, the family friend called Christie's father, who immediately went to the sheriff's office. That same day, the couple was reported missing. The couple's disappearance stunned everyone in this rural area. Wasting no time, police officers began a search around the Codd's property. It is unknown how long the search would have lasted if not for a phone call from one of the neighbors. He reported that an unknown person, near Donna Road, was acting very suspicious. This person had brought large garbage bags and left them near a dumpster. Police searched the bags and found the missing Christy Codd's belongings. And during the night, they tracked down and took into custody a suspicious man. He turned out to be Robert Owens, 37 years old. Determined not to be locked up, Owens confessed to stealing from the Codds on Sunday, which led to a search warrant. And after a search of his home, human remains were found in the wood stove. On Tuesday, March 17th, police announced that Owens had been charged with first-degree murder, burglary, and theft. According to the police report, the murder was committed back on Thursday, March 12. Owens dismembered the bodies of the murdered men and then hid the remains in the wood stove of his home and burned them. And on Sunday, he decided to make another visit to their home to steal a gun, a laptop, and some jewelry. While interviewing acquaintances and neighbors of the deceased, it was learned that Owens worked as a handyman and often did repair work for the Codds. The couple trusted him so much that they even gave him the keys to their home. And Owens had recently received a $7,000 advance from the dead men for the work. That may have been the motive for the murder. During the investigation, it was recalled that the detainee was one of the main suspects in the disappearance of Zeb Quinn. And then there was an unexpected statement from a witness. According to an unnamed relative, Owens began digging a large ditch on his property, which he then concreted over. As Owens himself explained at the time, he wanted to make a pond to raise fish, but did not finish it, and eventually the ditch filled with mud. This happened some time after Zeb's disappearance. Curious about the pond, detectives removed a layer of concrete. Underneath, they found cloth, leather, and unknown hard fragments. Pieces of metal and white powder were also found. In another part of the site, numerous plastic bags containing pulverized lime were found. However, no official statement about the discovery of the body has been made so far. Events of 2022. On July 25, 2022, as part of a plea deal with the investigation, Robert Owens pleaded guilty to aiding and abetting after-the-fact murder. Through his attorneys, he charged his uncle Walter Gene Owens with the murder of Zeb Quinn. Except the only catch is that his uncle died in 2017 and it wasn't hard to charge him. According to Robert's version, his uncle was hired by Misty Taylor's boyfriend as a hitman. He tricked Robert and Zeb into going into the woods to meet Taylor. The uncle then killed Zeb with a .22 caliber shotgun, stripped and burned the body. Owens, a kind friend, helped him in this endeavor. Robert Owens was sentenced to 12 years in prison, in addition to his life sentence for the other murders. The prosecutor stated that the investigation had fully solved the case and proved the murder of Zeb.